Do not trust someone just because they know how to say the right line. That is how weak people open the door themselves. Dangerous people rarely enter your life through threats. They enter through a kind voice, clean promises, perfectly timed concern, and a version of themselves that sounds very safe. They do not need to break the door down. They only need you to hand them the key. And many people do exactly that. They hear someone say, "I respect you," then ignore the way that person drains their time. They hear someone say, "I understand," then ignore the guilt that appears right after they dare to say no. Then comes the apology. Beautiful, perfectly timed, complete enough. Enough to make them forget that the behavior still has not changed. Machiavelli would not be fooled by that performance. He would not ask, "Does this person sound sincere?" He would ask, "What does this person do after they already have what they want?" That is the colder question, because words only show you how they want to be seen. Behavior shows you who they are when interest, pressure, and control appear. If you do not understand this, you will keep giving access to the wrong people. Your time, your energy, your secrets, your emotions. Trust is not kindness. Trust is access. And strong people do not give access just because someone says the right sentence at the right time. In this video, watch for 3 signs. Consensual warmth that changes after they get what they want. The small boundaries they keep stepping over. And the apology that only appears when consequences begin to get close. You do not need to become paranoid. You only need to stop letting words unlock you. If this line touches something you once ignored, keep it. I trust behavioral patterns, not performances. The first sign, conditional warmth. This is the kind of person who is only kind when they need something from you. When they need help, they become close. When they need information, they become attentive. When they need your agreement, they become gentle. When they need you to open up, they become the most understanding person in the room. But watch what happens afterward. Once they have what they want, the energy changes color. Their replies become shorter. Their voice gets colder. Their concern pulls back. And the promises that once sounded so solid begin to fade. Then you realize their warmth was never character. It was a tool. This is what many people miss. They are not deceived only because the other person performs well. They are deceived because they call enthusiasm sincerity, temporary kindness loyalty, and the feeling of being needed, the feeling of being respected. But someone needing you does not mean they value you. Some people treat you well only because you are holding something they want. Your attention, your time, your help, your connections, your secrets, or your agreement. And once they take it, the real person begins to show. Machiavelli understood something very cold. Do not judge people while they are trying to win you over. Judge them after they already have what they want, because by then the performance is no longer necessary. A trustworthy person is not kind only when they need you. They still maintain respect when they need nothing from you. That is the difference. Real warmth has stability. Fake warmth has a purpose. Look at the person who only appears when they need help, but disappears when you need consistency. The person who says they value you, but only comes to you when they need a door opened, is not building connection. They are looking for access. And if they use fast intimacy to lower your defenses, then become distant the moment you begin expecting a basic level of respect, that is not accidental. That is a transaction. And if you are too hungry for validation, You will call that transaction affection. This is how you lose your power. One small dose of perfectly timed warmth becomes enough to make you give too much access, reveal secrets too early, and let someone step into your private world before their behavior has proven they deserve to be there. Strong people do not get fooled there. They do not hate kindness. They simply cannot be bought with it. They observe what happens after the need is over. Does that person still respect you? Do they still keep their word? Are they still kind? Are they still consistent? Or does the warmth disappear the moment the benefit disappears? Here is the simple test. Do not judge them when they need you. Judge them when they no longer need you. Because a person can perform warmth when they want to unlock you, but they cannot fake consistency forever. If their kindness only appears when there is something to gain, do not call it goodness. Call it by its real name. It is a tactic for gaining access. And strong people do not give trust to access tactics. They wait for the pattern. Because access is not given to a feeling. Access is given to consistency. They let time strip off the outer paint. They let behavior prove whether someone is truly safe or simply knows how to say the right line at the right time. But the second sign is even more dangerous. Because some people do not need to ask for control. They simply step over your boundaries little by little to see whether you are cold enough to stop them. The second behavior is small boundary tests. This is the kind of person who does not betray you immediately. They do not destroy everything in one move. They do not walk in and say, "I want to control you." No, they begin with small things. One time showing up late. One last-minute cancellation. One joke that crosses the line a little. One small request that makes you uncomfortable. One step into your private space, followed by pretending it was nothing serious. And if you stay silent, they take note. Not with words, with behavior. They learn that you can be pushed a little further. This is how control often begins. Not with violence, not with an obvious attack, but with a chain of small violations disguised as accidents. Their words are clean. They say they respect you, that they understand your limits, that they meant nothing by it. But their behavior keeps touching the exact place where you already showed discomfort. That is what you need to see. Once can be a mistake. Twice can be carelessness. But when a small behavior repeats after you have already shown discomfort, it is no longer an accident. It is a test. They are measuring something very specific. Whether you need to be liked so badly that you will abandon yourself. If you fear disappointing others more than you fear losing your self-respect, they will see it. If you are not cold enough to say no, do not do that again, they will see that too. Overly nice people are easy to control because they are afraid of being called difficult. They try to keep everything light, try not to create tension, try not to turn a small thing into a big issue. And because of that, the small thing becomes the door. Machiavelli would not see a small violation as a minor incident. He would see it as a power test. Because the person who wants to control you does not need to know what boundaries you claim to have. They need to know whether you will defend them. A boundary that is not defended is only words. And words do not make people stop. Consequences do. Without consequences, a boundary is just a polite request. If you say, "I do not like that," but still laugh it off every time they repeat it, you have taught them that your boundary is only sound. If you say, "Do not be late again," but you always wait, always adjust, always understand, You have taught them that your time can be consumed without consequence. People do not learn your boundaries from your declarations. They learn from what you still allow after they have crossed them. This is not a small moral flaw. This is an access problem. Every small boundary that gets stepped on without consequence becomes an invitation for a larger violation, and dangerous people understand this. They do not need to defeat you with one major blow. They only need to make you get used to losing control little by little. A little time, a little privacy, a little silence, a little comfort, a little self-respect. By the time you realize it, you are no longer being easygoing. You are being trained to tolerate. That is the difference. Strong people do not protect boundaries with anger. They protect them with clarity. They do not need to yell, over-explain, or prove they have the right to be uncomfortable. They simply reduce access. The level of access must decrease according to the pattern. The person who is constantly late no longer gets the same priority. The person who jokes past your limits no longer gets to step deep into your private space. The person who uses silence as punishment no longer gets to control your emotions. This is not revenge. It is access adjustment. That is how you take your position back. You do not need to turn every small issue into a war. But you also must not let every small issue become training. Remember this: small disrespect, when repeated, is no longer small. It is the first draft of larger control. And if you want to know whether someone is trustworthy, do not just listen to how they talk about boundaries. Watch how they react when your boundary inconveniences them. A trustworthy person adjusts. An untrustworthy person argues, mocks, goes cold, or makes you feel guilty for having limits. That is when the mask falls. Not when they are enjoying you. When you say no. Not when you give them what they want. When you close the door at the right time. So when someone steps over a small boundary, do not only ask, "Is this serious?" Ask the colder question, "If I ignore this, what am I teaching them about how they are allowed to treat me?" That question will protect you. Because strong people understand, boundaries are not there to make others like you. Boundaries are the security system of access. And if that system does not work at the small doors, it will collapse at the larger ones. Now comes the third behavior. This is the behavior that traps many people the longest, because it does not arrive in the shape of an insult. It arrives in the shape of a very beautiful apology. The third behavior is the performative apology. It does not arrive like manipulation. It arrives like remorse. They do something wrong. They hurt you. They cross a boundary. They leak something you once trusted them with. And when you begin pulling back access, they appear with a very beautiful apology. Very fast, very soft, very troubled. So perfectly timed that it becomes suspicious. Their language is correct. Sorry, did not mean it, feels terrible, promises it will never happen again. Every sentence lands in the right place. And if emotion is still driving your judgment, you will confuse distress with change. That is the trap. An apology does not prove someone has changed. It only proves they know what to say when consequences begin to get close. Look carefully. Some people do not apologize to correct themselves. They apologize to calm you down, to regain access, to end the confrontation, to stop you from withdrawing before the real consequence reaches them. This is not accountability. This is damage control. And people who need to be liked too badly often get trapped here. They hear a beautiful apology, then immediately feel guilty for still keeping distance. They see the other person upset, then forget how they were treated. They see a few tears, then ignore the entire pattern. That is how you hand access back to someone who has never earned it back. Remember this: apology is words. Change is evidence. Apology is not repair. Apology is only the starting point of the price they must pay. If an apology appears but the old behavior continues, that is not repair. Whether it is being late, crossing boundaries, or leaking something you once trusted them with, the problem is not the apology. The problem is the unchanged pattern. It is only the old behavior being presented again in a softer voice. And that is where you have to become cold. A trustworthy person does not use an apology as a ticket back to their old position. They accept losing part of their access. They accept that you need time. They accept that their words are no longer enough. They understand that after breaking trust, they do not have the right to demand that you trust them again immediately. An untrustworthy person is different. They want forgiveness now. They want you to go back to normal now. They want their mistake to disappear just because they said the correct sentence. And if you do not do that, their tone begins to change. First comes the apology, then self-pity, then irritation, then blame, then making you feel like you are being too harsh. That is when the apology reveals itself. It was not remorse. It was a negotiation. They are not truly asking, "How do I need to change?" They are asking, "What do I need to say so you will let this go?" Do not be deceived. The coldest answer is, "I hear the apology." But trust takes time. A real apology does not demand an immediate reward. It does not pressure you to open the door again right away. It does not get angry because you still need distance. It does not try to erase the consequence. It accepts the consequence. Because someone who is truly remorseful understands that trust is not restored by emotion. It is restored by a new pattern, repeated, stable, costly, and proven over time. That is the price. If they are not willing to pay that price, they do not want to repair. They only want to be forgiven. And here is the rule: do not measure an apology by the pain in someone's voice. Measure it by the behavior that follows. Do they change? Do they repeat it? Do they respect the consequence? Do they stop demanding instant trust? If not, do not call it remorse. Call it by its real name. It is a performance to regain access. And strong people are not brought back with a beautiful apology. They listen. They acknowledge it. But they do not hand the key back immediately. They let time test it. They let behavior prove it. They let the new pattern pay the price for the old trust that was broken. Because a person can say sorry in 10 seconds, but only a trustworthy person can live differently for 10 weeks. That is the difference. Now take this entire lesson one level colder. If you want to know whether someone is trustworthy, do not observe them when everything is easy. Observe them under pressure. Because pressure does not create character. Pressure only pulls character out. And this is where words lose all value. Do not observe someone only when everything is comfortable, when there is no pressure, no interest, no risk, and nothing forcing them to choose. In those moments, anyone can be kind. Anyone can be polite. Anyone can say they respect you. But character does not reveal itself in comfort. It reveals itself when there is a cost, when they have to lose time, when they have to accept inconvenience, when they have to tell the truth even if it makes them look bad, when they have to keep their word even when it no longer benefits them. when they have to protect you while the crowd is looking the other way. That is when you see character, not in the promise, in the choice. Some people tell you in private that they understand you. They say you are right. They say they support you. They say they have always respected you. But when they walk into a room with pressure, they go silent. When the crowd changes direction, they change direction with it. When their own interest is threatened, they step back. When they have to lose a little image to stay fair to you, they disappear. They call it neutrality. But in reality, they are only choosing the safest place to stand. A person who is only loyal when it costs them nothing is not loyal. They are not standing with you. They are only standing near you when it is safe. Understand this. Pressure does not turn a good person bad. Pressure only removes the stage. It removes the beautiful sentence. It removes the easy kindness. It removes the moral performance that appears when nothing has a cost. And when the stage disappears, what remains is character. Machiavelli would not ask, "What does this person say about loyalty?" He would ask, "What does this person do when loyalty starts to cost them?" I do not judge the promise. I watch the choice when there is a price. That is the colder question. Because untrustworthy people are often very good at talking about values. They talk about respect, loyalty, honesty, and how they are different from the rest. But when it is time to live by those words, they start calculating. They protect their interest, protect their image, choose the safer side, then call abandoning you, not wanting to make things complicated. That is not maturity. That is self-protection at the cost of trust. And you must be cold enough to see it. What matters is not one isolated behavior. Silence is not automatically bad. Avoiding conflict is not automatically dangerous. Choosing safety is not always betrayal. But if someone is always silent exactly when you need clarity, always avoids conflict by letting you carry the loss, and always chooses safety for themselves, while the risk falls on you, take note. The pattern is the evidence. A trustworthy person does not need to be perfect. But they must have one thing: consistency under pressure. They are not only kind when things are pleasant. They are not only fair when it is easy. They do not keep their word only when it is convenient. They do not stand beside you only when no one objects. Because trust is not built by beautiful emotions. It is built by stable behavior in difficult moments. If they are only good when everything is light, that is temperament. If they still do what is right when things become inconvenient, that is character. Do not give deep access to someone who has never been observed under pressure. Your secrets, your trust, and your sense of safety should not be placed in the hands of someone who is only good at speaking in private, only loyal when no one is watching, and only makes you feel comfortable in moments where nothing has a cost. Let time place them in real situations. When you say no, when you are no longer useful, when they have to keep their word, when they have the chance to use information against you, when they must choose between their own convenience and their respect for you. There you will see. No investigation needed. No need to suspect everyone. No need to turn life into a battlefield. Just observe when there is pressure, because the real person does not need to be questioned too much. They reveal themselves through what they repeat. And here is the principle. Do not trust the person who only does what is right when doing right costs them nothing. Trust the person who still does what is right when doing right makes them pay a price. That kind of person is rare. And they are also the only kind of person worthy of deeper access to your life. But there is one final trap. It is not in them. It is in you. Because many times the other person has already shown you the pattern. You simply do not want to believe what your own eyes have seen. Many times you are not deceived because you failed to see the signs. You are deceived because you did see them. But you bargained with the evidence. You saw enough. The kindness that appears when they need you, the small boundaries being stepped on, the beautiful apology with unchanged behavior, and the disappearance exactly when pressure arrives. The problem is not a lack of signs. The problem is that you begin negotiating with what is already clear. But instead of calling it by its real name, you start explaining it for them. Maybe they are busy. Maybe they did not mean it. Maybe this time is different. Maybe they are still a good person. Maybe I am overthinking. That is when you betray your own judgment. They did not fully convince you. You helped them do it. You become the defense attorney for someone whose own behavior is testifying against them. This is what overly nice people must understand. Kindness is not dangerous, but kindness without awareness turns into self-deception. You do not want to think badly of anyone. You do not want to lose the connection. You do not want to admit you trusted the wrong person. You do not want to see that the warmth was only a tool. So you do something very dangerous. You use their beautiful words to cover their bad behavior. You use one kind moment to cover 10 moments of inconsistency. You use one apology to erase a pattern. You use their potential to replace their reality. That is not understanding. That is self-hypnosis. Machiavelli would not ask, could they become a good person? He would ask, what are they repeating right in front of you? That is the colder question. Because potential does not protect you. Patterns protect you. A person can have a sad story, a difficult past, a reason that sounds reasonable, and an explanation that feels deeply moving. But if their behavior still steals your peace, violates your boundaries, consumes your time, and forces you to keep forgiving the same mistake, their story does not change the truth. The truth is that the behavior is repeating, and the pattern is speaking. Strong people do not deny that, just because it hurts. They do not need to turn someone else into a villain in order to withdraw access. They only need to see enough. That is power. You do not need to hate them. You do not need to attack them. You do not need to prove to the whole world that they are dangerous. You only need to stop giving them a level of access their behavior has not earned. This is the difference between a reactive person and a controlled person. The reactive person waits until a major betrayal happens before they leave. The controlled person reduces access when the small pattern is already clear enough. No noise, no drama, no announcement needed. Just a door closing at the right time. And remember this, a contradiction between words and behavior is not something you need to explain. It is the answer. A repeated contradiction does not need to be explained. It has already convicted itself. When the words say respect, but the behavior says disregard, when the words say they understand your boundaries, but the reaction is punishment. When the words say sorry, but the pattern stays the same, the answer is already there. Do not keep asking a question that behavior has already answered. That is how you take your power back. You stop arguing with the evidence. From that point on, you no longer bargain with what behavior has already proven. You stop softening the truth to preserve a beautiful image. You stop believing in the version of them that exists only in words. And you begin living according to what you have seen. Not with bitterness, with precision. Because untrustworthy people often do not need you to be foolish. They only need you to doubt yourself long enough for them to take more time, more energy, more access to your private world, then make you call their contradiction complicated. But it is not complicated. If beautiful words and bad behavior keep appearing together, trust the behavior. If loud apologies and small changes always come together, trust the pattern. If warmth only appears when they need something, trust the withdrawal that follows. Your eyes have already seen it. Your body has already felt it. Your peace has already been taken. Do not call that awareness paranoia, just because the truth makes you uncomfortable. It is not paranoia. It is awareness returning. And when awareness returns, you no longer need to ask who they are. You only need to look at what they repeat. You have already looked. Now the question is, are you cold enough to trust what you have seen? Remember these three behaviors: conditional warmth, small boundary tests, and the performative apology. These three things do not always appear as betrayal. They often appear softly, a little perfectly timed kindness, a small step over the line, an apology that sounds very real. And because they are soft, many people ignore them. But an awake person does not measure the size of the behavior. They measure the pattern. Conditional warmth shows you who is only kind when there is something to take. Small boundary tests show you who only respects limits when those limits do not inconvenience them. The performative apology shows you who wants forgiveness without wanting to live differently. And pressure shows you the rest. Not the version they perform when everything is easy, but the character that appears when respect begins to cost something. That is where the trustworthy person separates from the person who only knows how to say the right line. A trustworthy person is not afraid of time, not afraid of being observed, not afraid of having to prove themselves through behavior. Only the person who wants fast access hates being watched slowly. From today on, do not ask, "What did they say to me?" Ask the colder question, "What do they repeat when they no longer need to perform?" That question will keep you awake. It will stop you from opening the door too early. It will stop you from bargaining with the evidence. It will remind you that trust is not kindness. Trust is access. Your time is access. Your energy is access. Your secrets are access. Your emotions are access. Your presence is access. Do not give those things to someone who only has beautiful words. Let behavior pay the price. Let the pattern prove itself. Let time strip away the outer performance. If you have ever bargained with the evidence, lock it in with this line: I trust behavioral patterns, not performances. Because when you stop trusting words before you have seen the pattern, you do not become paranoid. You become harder to manipulate, calmer, harder to read, and less easily bought by perfectly timed kindness. And most importantly, you no longer hand the key to someone who only knows how to say the right line. You let behavior prove itself. You trust slowly. You observe coldly. From that point on, no one gets to step deeper into your life just because they know how to say the right sentence.